Rewind the dynamite from the post-wrestling site. AEW, lighting up the fuse. Sit back and enjoy the bubbly, as we hear from John and Wai Ting. Where we're going, we don't need roads. And if the buck stops here, this thing might blow. Everything you hear are opinions of the show. And if you don't like it, go to the forums and let them know.
Hello, everybody. It's John Pollock and Wai Ting with you, following AEW Dynamite number 250.
Yeah, Rwanda Dynamite number 250. Welcome.
Congratulations.
We made it.
Yeah, we're gonna start off the show with a 59-minute and 58-second banter about rain in Toronto. Wai's power is back on. I see.
Oh, barely. Yeah, I feel like just in time for this podcast. It felt like it was a long time. Yeah,
dude, this city got rocked. It was a 10-7 round for nature.
It was a wake-up call, I guess, about a lot of things that need upgrading in this city. We're not at all prepared for this, and I
think we lost Union Station. I think it's gone.
Like half the city's buried in sewage, basically.
It was crazy.
So, it was also, I think, a reminder of what it's like to not have electricity for at least a good portion. I mean, I wasn't even without it for that much. I went to my mother-in-law's place.
Remember the power outage in 2003?
Well, that's what everybody was bringing up. You know, those of us who actually remember that. In 2003, it was like a citywide blackout that lasted how long? 12 hours or something like that?
I think it was longer than that, depending
maybe
on...
longer.
Well, it maybe depends where you were in the city. I remember it was closer to 24 hours without power.
And this is the closest we ever got to that. But, I mean, 20-something years after that, we're way more dependent on the internet. We're way more dependent on just electricity, period. So I got to at least, try to figure out, hey, how do we... what exactly does not having electricity do to us, and how fucked are we if we don't have internet access, basically? And the answer is very. We're without a lot of things that we take for granted.
Well, one of the big modes of communication in 2003 for people, because you couldn't access your TV, smartphones were not a thing in 2003. It was the radio, because a lot of people could still get battery powered radios. How many people have a battery powered radio in 2024? I sure don't.
I don't. No.
Yeah. So
you listen to the radio through this thing, and I mean,
text,
yes,
you do have at least texting capabilities.
No, not really, John, because Wi-Fi was out in so many places. The cell service was basically locked up, so we couldn't even get signal. We couldn't text. We couldn't call. So you make do.
You were able to text me though,
because I wasn't in my area at that point.
Oh, okay, I see.
I had gone somewhere else. So, but honestly, we made do because it was only a few hours. But it makes me think, oh man, if this was a day or 2 days or a week, I think we'd be dead. The whole city would be, we'd be done. But for that hour or two, it was actually kind of nice. It was kind of nice to be forced to not have to look at screens, and just sit in the dark for a bit.
That's nice. Is this the part where I tell you I didn't lose any power and I went completely unaware of most of what was going on? I just lived through the photos and videos and was like, yeah, that sucks. I'm glad this has not impacted me. Drake didn't get off so easy. He's had a rough summer.
Ooh, yeah, not good to be Drake at the moment. Other than the millions of dollars he has. But you had a very busy day on Tuesday. I'm very glad you had electricity at the Pollock household.
What happened on Tuesday?
Well, it was a very busy day for news.
Oh, it was a fairly busy day for news, as I recall.
I couldn't imagine what your day was.
Today was a tornado, okay, for myself. Yeah. I can't even remember Tuesday at this point.
Yeah.
So all is well now in the Wai Ting household. We understand.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Nothing. And anybody else who's dealing with the effects of it, so many people with flooded basements and all that. I feel terrible, for all you guys. Hopefully,
you know who the most thoughtful man was in all of post-wrestling country?
Who was that?
Our man, who contacted me to make sure that my basement survived this flooding, because he knows I've been I've had 2 floods over the last 18 months. Thankfully, you would have seen a grown man cry if our basement flooded after all we have been through in the last 18 months. But thankfully, our basement was spared, and I probably just jinxed it for the next downfall we get. But there we go. That was that's your weather update for Toronto. We got hammered this past week. People are maybe going to want to get hammered after this weekend because there's a lot of wrestling going on, and the one place to be is postwrestling.com for all of your G1 Climax coverage. So we want to give everyone the heads up that over the next month, 12 G1 podcasts will be yours. If you sign up Saturday, that will cover you for the 30 days covering G1 season. So if you want to be strategic, you can do it that way. But things will kick off with Saturday and Sunday shows in Osaka, and Bruce Lord and Karen Peterson are up first on Sunday with a review of the first 2 nights from Osaka, where they will casually go through 19 tournament matches to whet everyone's appetite for the month-long G1 Climax. I knew that both of these were double block shows, but it didn't really hit me until today. Because in my head, I was thinking, like, how I'm going to watch all this stuff this weekend with the TNA show and the G1, and then I remember, oh yes, there are 19 G1 matches, and that's just to kick things off for the first 2 nights. It is G1 season way,
and no Yano break for those 2. So.
No Yano breaks at all. Have you submitted your picks?
I've not yet. I realize I have 25 hours to do so. Okay, it all ends on Thursday midnight Eastern time, so I do have a little bit of time. I'm all caught up on Bruce Lord's preview, and I will be making my picks shortly after this podcast. Have you?
No. Last year, I went through waves. I was planning to do this up until today. I was just thinking, okay, I'm not gonna have time to enter this thing, but now I'm committed. I will enter. Last year, I literally did this last minute, and it was just a blind man just throwing darts.
You did well in the C block from what
I think I did okay. I can't remember where I placed. Brandon was our big winner last year. I'm sitting down tomorrow. I'm going to map out this entire thing, okay? I'm dedicating my morning, okay?
Well, what's your strategy? Are you like picking one particular winner and
I'm going
and
backwards.
booking
I'm going to exactly.
But
I went forward last time, and that's not, you're just doing a crapshoot here. You have to figure, listen, this is the hardest prediction contest to do.
It is.
Especially this year. This year it's there's a lot more available options.
Oh, but I just always think like booking backwards, you're limiting yourself to only one real possibility. You know, when you're just
not necessarily. It's the top 3 in each block advance. So you know, you spread out your points, and if you have, say, your 6 people, well, even if 2 of them are booked to go over, I mean, that might be more than anyone else is picking. I mean, a lot of this is luck involved. I say I'm going to dedicate my morning. I'm going to spend about 20 minutes on this, and that's probably as much time as I have tomorrow to dedicate to this.
Yeah, I think it's easy to think too hard about something like this. Okay, you don't have to spend that much time with it, honestly. Like even if you just want to click randomly, just so that you have something to follow with, I think you'll probably do decently fine.
Well, you can follow along throughout the G1 season. We will be keeping everyone updated on the top point getters as well as the illustrious C block of how the post community is doing. So again, postwrestling.com/G1. It is free to submit your picks, and it's not just bragging rights you're coming out with. You're also going to get a prize pack from chop-tees.com from Dickie Bird himself, who, if you are in a certain part of Australia, he will hand deliver it for you. I understand.
If you live where he lives, he might.
If you're next door to him, he would hand deliver it to you. Otherwise, you know what? You'll get the Dickie Bird seal. Maybe he'll have a special rubber stamp to make you the authentic winner of the G1 Climax contest.
And speaking of chop-tees.com/postwrestling, we have our latest line of shirts available. Our post-Canadian collection, t-shirts, hoodies, toques, snapbacks, all for your perusal. Go
Perfect attire for this U.S. election cycle.
Of course, as always. Mm-hmm.
Yes. All right. Go check out all of that. Some fine-looking merchandise that is coming your way. Also, want to let people know that on Friday, we are dropping our latest Rewind Away. We will be covering WWF Invasion, July 2001, a pay-per-view that Way will be starting later tonight when we wrap up Rewind to Dynamite. How deep are you?
That's
into this
not
show?
true. I'm I'm about 20 minutes in.
Okay. That's how far I got into this event when I realized what the second match was and they put up the graphic. And I literally stopped and did not go back for 2 days because it was one of those, like, I just can't. And then I had to will myself into this because, goddamn, I have a lot to say about this show. We are going to have some clips. We are going to have our new version of the Trivia Gauntlet, where we are going to go through the musical the musical player of post wrestling, where you will get to hear some songs from 2001 for our Espresso executive producer to guess the hit songs of the summer of 2001. What was Wai listening to in 2001? Did it vibe with what was on the radio?
I wait to see what was exactly on the radio. Yeah. For people who aren't aware, on Rewind Away, we don't just review these shows. John does like wonderful trivia gauntlets with our executive producers who pick the events, and typically he will quiz them about what the Billboard charts were for that particular time of this pay-per-view. So what is it, July 22nd of 2001? I'm predicting some Limp Bizkit. I'm predicting some maybe Britney, Mariah Carey. I think always a good go-to.
Do you know who was the artist for the Invasion theme that they used?
Marilyn Manson.
That is correct.
The fight song.
Yes, which they tried to scrub from the WWE Network version. So we got like some weird amalgamation of it and still like bleed through on it. So it was quite the clean edit that they have on the WWE Network.
We will be chatting all this on Friday.
All right, that's coming out Friday. Post Wrestling, cafe.com. Great time to join up as we have multiple shows, 5 shows coming up over the next couple of days, including the G1 show, Invasion, and a show on TNA Slammiversary. And with all these cafe shows, we are making Collision Course free on Friday night with Kate and John Cena for the first of many weeks in Arlington, Texas at the Esports Stadium.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing their thoughts. I'm looking forward to seeing how this show looks, during this summer-long residence.
I'm looking forward to how this new series on Dump Matsumoto looks on Netflix. It is been confirmed by Netflix, and they're promoting it now. September 19th, it's a 5-episode series, The Queen of Villains, profiling Dump Matsumoto, huge star with All Japan Women, partner with Bull Nakano, among many partners, a rival to the Crush Gals. I'm just blown away that Netflix is doing a 5-episode series on Dump Matsumoto and that All Japan Women beat WWE to Netflix.
It's pretty amazing. Now, I mean, this is Netflix Japan, so like it's Japanese production. They have a lot of original Japanese productions, and maybe when you think about it that way, it's not that surprising. Like we've had, a number of TV shows here in America and in the West based on professional wrestling. But the fact that it's on Netflix means that it's going to get international distribution. And this tweet that's come out here is actually from the Netflix
This was the main
account.
Netflix account that was promoting this. So I don't know if it'll be region specific of who will have access to this.
I wouldn't think so.
I don't think so. It's a Netflix
it.
original. So everyone in theory should have access to this. This poster looks amazing.
Well, let's also remember this is Netflix now that is about to embark in the biggest partnership with a professional wrestling company ever. So this might be just a continuation of making wrestling a big thing for their entire network. So I'm certainly looking forward to it,
Yeah, it's a dramatic series. This is not like a documentary series, but it is a Urian Retriever who plays Dump Matsumoto, and this was produced by Osamu Suzuki. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to this. September 19th, 5-episode series coming to Netflix.
Just the looks and the makeup of that particular era with those particular stars, I think, are so visually stunning and captivating.
Like Bull Nakano is just gonna look incredible. I bet with
just
all
outfits
those
are gonna
characters.
Yeah, like those are some of the things that always jump out to me when I'm watching anything from that era. It's just like how crazy the outfits are, how crazy the makeup is, and I have to think like a biopic type of show will make great great use of those effects.
Are they going to cast Mark Maron in this one too? Are they going to keep him as the
crossover? Crossover maybe.
Yeah, to oversee the female talent in Japan. This will be this will be your connection to Glow.
Yeah. Was there ever any sort of Glow crossover with All Japan Women Was that ever a thing? I guess, like, was that even... Yeah, they would have crossed... It would have been the similar era, right? Late 80s.
Yeah, no real crossover.
Yeah, probably
fortunately. Well, this is fiction. You can create whatever you would like.
The real Forbidden Door.
Yeah, that's it. NXT on Tuesday night. This was going against the Major League Baseball All-Star Game. They did 610,000 viewers and a .20 in the 18 to 49 demo, so they were down 7% in viewers, down 16% in 18 to 49. In Canada, they did 105,000 viewers, which is a very good number for NXT, and did 42,200 in the 25 to 54 demo, which is the main demo in Canada. That was second, the demo number in Canada for sports for the night, only behind the All-Star Game. So this was a very good number for NXT in Canada, and kind of an average number in the US against the All-Star Game. But yes, you had the Rascals with the NXT in-ring debut of Trey Miguel, and as Wai noted, the NXT in-ring debut of Zachary Wentz as well, returning.
Correct. Yeah, he looked wonderful. Yes. It was really cool to see those three together. And at this point, I have to think anybody who gets any sort of significant reaction in the WWE will probably be signed eventually by the WWE.
I mean, you kind of had Joe Hendry on this show pretty much saying, I really like it here. I'm just going to stick around.
He's like the biggest star on the show. He's like the most over guy in NXT right now.
Yeah. And you did have a segment with Roxanne Perez, flat out name dropping Julia and Stephanie Vacour. So, I mean, they have just pretty much set up multiple matches for Roxanne Perez in the near future, and it's only going to be a question of when you see them in there. Like Stephanie Vacour, I mean, God, she could be there instantly. They've also added the fact that Great American Bash will now be a 2-week series beginning July 30th, and both those weeks will be on Sci-Fi. They're also going to be doing 2 episodes of Raw on Sci-Fi due to the Summer Olympics that USA Network is going to be covering as well. So that's coming up in the pre-SummerSlam episodes of Raw. G1 Climax, as we mentioned, on Saturday, they will open with 10 matches, and this is your lineup for Saturday. We will have Ren Narita against Oleg Boltin, Shota Umino against Callum Newman, El Fantasmo against Hanare, Zack Sabre Jr. against Great Okan, Hiroki Goto against Jeff Cobb. That should be very good. Sonata against Jake Lee. This is a very big tournament for Jake Lee, who I think is coming in with a lot to prove in this tournament and his inclusion. Yuya Uemura against David Finlay, Evil against Gabe Kidd, and then in the top 2 matches, Konosuke Takeshita against Yota Tsuji, which should be outstanding. And headlining the show, a very rare singles match involving LIJ stablemates Tetsuya Naito and Shingo Takagi. So quite the lineup on Saturday, and then they come back with 9 matches on Sunday. So cancel all your plans this weekend. It is G1 time, and you can fit in TNA Slammiversary in there as well, because Saturday night they are in Montreal. They have announced that the setup that they have sold out all the tickets for. They are not even selling tickets at this point. The main event is the 6-way for the TNA Heavyweight Championship, with Moose defending against Frankie Kazarian, Nick Nemeth, Josh Alexander, Steve Macklin, and Joe Hendry. Mustafa Ali against Speedball Mike Bailey for the X Division Championship. Jordan Grace versus Ash by Elegance for the Knockouts title. AJ Francis against PCO, who probably has had a big reason that they have done so well in the Montreal market, for the digital media title. And then the Militia of Masha Slamovich and Alicia Edwards defending the Knockouts tag titles against former champions Spitfire, Danny Luna, and Jody Threat. And probably more matches to be announced on tomorrow's Go Home show and in the lead up to Saturday night. But should be a very good crowd by TNA standards, several thousand that are expected to be there in Montreal. Final thing, on Thursday, we're going to be releasing an interview that I got to conduct earlier today with Daniel Makabe, who had his retirement match last Friday as part of the Scenic City Invitational tournament in Chattanooga, Tennessee. And his final match was against Kevin Koo. And Makabe, in the interview, he talks about why he's retiring now and the thought process behind it, why he selected Kevin Koo to be his final partner. But he has made it very clear. He is putting an asterisk next to this. He will come back for 1 match and 1 match only with a certain native of Aberdeen, Washington. So in this, we're going to play a short preview of this interview as he explains who that one opponent is that he would be coming out of retirement for. This year, Bryan Danielson. He was interviewed on Casual Conversations with Justin Dillon, and I'm going to play this clip and then get your reaction.
There's also a company in Portland that's doing some cool stuff. It seems like they put their shows up on YouTube.
I think you're right.
Like
is it Prestige? I might be wrong.
Yeah, I think it's Prestige.
Yeah.
They do the Cascadia Cup. They just did Daniel Makabe and Zack Sabre Jr. I think
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Makabe's dope too. He's like, a lot of people probably don't know who Daniel Makabe is. Like, check him out. You guys know who Zack Sabre is. But,
yeah. Well, and it's interesting because I heard Daniel Makabe was retiring this. Was retiring this year, and I was like, oh, that would be a cool one.
It would, yeah.
And so it's like, but
you put it out there now. We'll see. What
yeah.
So I want to get your reaction when you first heard this clip, and there's this retirement countdown, and this, I guess, is the creation of the asterisk that you have added to your pretty hardline retirement announcement.
Yeah. So I first heard it because Post Wrestling reported on it.
Andrew Thompson, he finds it all.
Yeah, and I was actually in the building. AEW was doing Collision in Vancouver when that kind of came out, and my phone just blew up. People were coming up to me in the building saying, "Have you seen this? Did you see what Bryan said?" It's funny. Fans always took it a certain way as like, oh, we need to try and get it in before July. We need to try and sneak it in before July. And I knew just how wrestling works from a logistics standpoint. That wasn't going to happen. The only way it would happen is you hot shot me onto an episode of Collision or something. And that's never been a goal of mine, nor did it sound particularly appealing to me. And so it kind of dawned on me, like, I had this, angel devil on my shoulder kind of thing. Like, I said that July 12th is a hard out, and I truly believe that. But this Danielson match presented itself as something that, how could I say no to that? He's only a couple years older than me, but, I was a teenager going to independent shows here in the Northwest, and he was here like every other month, and we were punishing him about Ring of Honor and the Super 8s and all those things. And he was incredibly patient with me and my friends, but his influence on me is undeniable. It's always a match that's been a dream for years, but was never conceivable. And that clip from him made it conceivable. This has been a big year for me where I get to do kind of all the things I wanted to do and go all the places I wanted to go and wrestle all the people that I wanted to wrestle before I was done. And kind of parallel to that is Bryan's, 2024 has been him going to Japan to wrestle Sabre, Mexico to wrestle Blue Panther, basically wrestle a who's who of whoever he wants on television, from Hechicero to obviously, renewing the feud with Adam Page. I think there's a symmetry there between the two of us, and I think him coming back for one final match on the independents against me would be pretty neat. And I think I'd be very I'd feel at ease, especially if it happens in the next couple months. I don't really want it to happen a couple years down the line when I've been retired for however long. But he said what he said, and I've subsequently said what I've said, both online and then at the the culmination of my match with Ku. And it's all out there for everyone. If any promoters out there who want to book it, that'd be appreciated.
All right. So there you go. A teaser for our interview that will be released Thursday at noon on the Post Wrestling YouTube channel, chatting with Daniel Makabe about his retirement match. A lot of interesting details about the match from last week that it's gotten great reviews if you have had a chance to see the Scenic City Invitational either night, but that was on the first night of the tournament. All right, Wade, we are now going to go into Dynamite 250 from the Simmons Bank Arena in North Little Rock, Arkansas. Final number from WrestleTix was 3,051. So, some giant matches that they announced over the past week. But I would say, like, this is the first time that they were running this particular arena. It's not the biggest market, but this also did not move a ton of tickets. But I did think for the quality that they got, this crowd, certainly these 3,000, they showed up and were pretty vocal. And it wasn't even a case, obviously, about the first match, but it's not like they just plateaued afterwards for that second hour. Like this was a very good crowd, even if it was a lower number for such a big show.
No, it seemed like you had 3,000 of maybe the most passionate fans you could probably find within that radius, inside that building, and they were treating this as if it was a very, very big deal. And they certainly made up, perhaps, for how small that number might sound. Just looking at the product, like, I could say this was a very hot crowd tonight.
Well, we are starting things off with Will Ospreay against MJF for the AEW International Championship. And I wonder what percentage of these fans were saying, oh, they're just going to give us some 5 minutes DQ run in and we'll save this one for Wembley. They came out and Justin Roberts makes the announcement that it is scheduled for a 60-minute time limit. And they note at the beginning, Will Ospreay 9-0 on Dynamite. And early on, MJF is doing a lot of heel work with the audience. He tossed a drink at someone, ripped his sign, and then we just get right into this. And the pace they're going at, I mean, we saw a Sasuke special by Ospreay pretty early on, and he's holding his ribs after delivering the move, and followed that with a sky twister press. So the ribs were a target. Then MJF moved after faking a knee injury, draws in Will for a pile driver, and starts mocking Daniel Garcia into the camera, doing his dance. And MJF goes after the knee. There's a lot of work in that direction until Ospreay goes for an os cutter, lands it, and then tries for one on the edge of the apron, missing him, and just crashes on the edge. And now his shoulder is all messed up. And his selling of this shoulder was terrific throughout the rest of this match, which there was plenty more to come here, as MJF now focused on the shoulder, moving on from the knee, and rams him into the steps shoulder first. And he's stating he is a real professional wrestler. Will is a bullshit copy of a professional wrestler. Hits a Made in Japan. They fight into the stands, which involved a little kid striking MJF at the behest of Will Ospreay before they made their way back, and Will was doused with a beer from Max.
That's a setup for a future program in about 20 years. I'm
the
sure.
little child,
yes,
getting
MJF.
MJF going after this little child.
Yeah.
I love Tony Schiavone here, who they've been out of the ring for about 5 minutes, and Schiavone applauds Bryce for just letting them fight.
These were New Japan playoff rules. G1 rules, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so Bryce is being very liberal here. Then they set up a table on, this is about 20 minutes into the match. They placed this table and it just sits there, and they did multiple teases of this table. And this crowd, it's like any crowd. They see a table and they just want to see this table be broken. So they kept checking in with us with this table, and it would culminate in a pretty big spot. But we keep going. Dude, Will is they battle on the edge of the apron, with Will managing a Styles class onto the edge as the crowd erupts at this move. And as we go to a picture-in-picture break, Doc Samson comes to check on Ospreay's arm, and he's trying to see what the mobility is like. And then Doc Samson, dude, grabs this arm and just yanks it to put it back into place. And this whole crowd is just like, they've seen all this stuff in this match, and they're going to see more, but it's popping a guy's shoulder back into the joint. That is just too much for people.
I think that might have been a first for a picture-in-picture commercial break. I don't know if they've ever done that, popping back into a socket. It conveys a whole lot, and I mean, in the case of some of the wrestlers, gives them a little bit of time to rest as well. So very well designed and well executed.
And Ospreay, in selling this arm, he's doing a one-armed last ride power bomb. He's maneuvering his offense to just use the good arm. So then we got this incredible shot where MJF is in control, and he's standing on the floor, and he points to his head that I'm the smartest man. And right as he does this, Ospreay flies from behind with a hidden blade, and the angle at which they shot this, it was incredible. He just comes out of nowhere. And then we see Ospreay blocking a top rope Rana moments later with one arm, and lands a Styles Clash off of the turnbuckle, but MJF is able to grab the rope and move to the floor. Schiavone states, I have been here for all 250 episodes. I've never seen a match this good. And MJF ends up getting in control, placing Will onto the table. And as we go almost before the third picture-in-picture break of this match, MJF flies off the top with this elbow drop and putting Will through the table. All I could think about was the spot at the pay-per-view last year when the table was broken and he went with the elbow anyway and destroyed his hip. And to have that courage to let's do another spot where I'm gonna go, and this guy went all in on this, and he came up and he had this nasty welt on his leg from this, but hopefully his hip was in place from this. This was a spectacular spot. As
many of the spots in this match were.
Yes. I mean, I'm doing my best here to just point out.
You're doing a great job. Yeah.
Did you? But at what point did you get the sense that they were going the 60?
Probably by the time we got to the third commercial break and I recognized the time. I mean, there's so much of this match I wasn't even looking at the clock, you know. And by the time we got to the third commercial break, I recognized, we're about
like this race
minutes.
through. Like all of a sudden, I look down, like, wow, we're past 30 minutes. The first 30 minutes, they're not working this like a match where they're pacing. That you get the thought that they're going 60.
Not at all. No, this is not Brett versus Shawn at WrestleMania 12. You're not getting too many holds. Like they're going at an incredible pace for this entire 60 minutes.
So MJF is catapulted into the corner, and then we see a super poison Rana, but MJF lands on his feet. And let me emphasize how late in the match that they're doing this incredible athleticism. So MJF goes for a super Rana. Now Ospreay lands on his feet. Just an amazing sequence. And they go into these crazy fish out of water covers, just one after the other, counter, and the crowd is buzzing with all the kickouts. There's an Oscutter that is nailed with a MJF super kick in midair. Will hits the poison Rana, and the Stormbreaker is avoided, ends with a Spanish fly as they come off the ropes. An amazing sequence, and they just hit everything perfectly. We see a springboard into an Oscutter, hidden blade, MJF kicks out. So then MJF ducks a follow-up hidden blade, spits into Ospreay's face, so Will applies the double underhooks, and he's got the look on his face. He's going to go for the Tiger Driver right as Justin Roberts announces that there is 1 minute remaining, and they've got the countdown on the screen as well so the crowd can see this. And he hoists him up for the Tiger Driver, but he hesitates. He can't do it and puts MJF down. And with that, MJF knocks Ospreay into Bryce Remsburg and drills Ospreay with the Dynamite Diamond Ring and gets his arm on top and pins him with 2 seconds remaining in the time limit. 59 minutes and 58 seconds. MJF is the new AEW International Champion, the third longest match in AEW history, and 2 seconds off the Hangman Bryan Danielson match on Dynamite.
And what was the exact time again?
59:58.
Yeah, that's incredible. It's incredible that
I will admit I was not timing this, but I believe Cena was, and he had the same. It seemed to be like they nailed the time.
It's just amazing to me, and this was the same case with the Cole match where, I mean, oftentimes they might even work it, they might go a little bit over and just kind of claim that there's a minute left, but in this case it seemed very legitimate, and it's just always amazing to me that wrestlers can plan something out like this and they can do as much as they do and somehow end it at the perfect time. It's amazing, and this was unique obviously because they were using the sort of threat of the hour-long draw to play with our expectations, and I don't know if this is consistent or not, but they had Justin Roberts announce it. I don't know if they've done it for every single one of these, but here obviously it was for effect, so that the audience was aware that the time limit was coming, and they swerved us by actually giving us a finish here. What can you really say about this hour-long match, dude? It's
this was incredible. This is one of the best TV matches you're going to see.
Yeah. What each of these two are capable of at their very best. They are two of the best wrestlers in the world. And you pair them together, you can't get anything but, I think, an amplified result from the both of them. It felt like a match where each of them were approaching their max capacity, no pun intended. I felt like each of them were delivering the best material that I think they had, and I'm sure they were both equally motivated, having to face each other and to try to deliver a 60-minute match like this. There was no break other than maybe pausing for like the shoulder separation spot, but like even that was like engaging.
Dude, the pace they were going at for those final like 15 minutes was incredible. These guys were, they could have gone another hour. Like they were just in like the final 15 minutes. Like it's incredible what they were doing that late in the match and the pace that they held for like a 60-minute match.
That is something I feel like we will see in our lifetime, John. A 2-hour television match on Dynamite. Or just on any sort of TV show. And there's a good chance it could be these two doing it because they have incredible cardio and creativity.
As we're talking about this cardio, and you pull up the image of the guy with the oxygen.
Is this not the perfect shot though? For a guy who somehow
great.
escaped with the championship, but like had to wear an oxygen mask at the end of it. I thought like the Ospreay's tease of using the Tiger Driver was like, I'm not that into this whole like he has to execute. He's trying not to execute the Tiger Driver, but he really like calls for it every single time. I don't really love the storyline, but it was way better executed in this match than I thought.
This one was
in the Swerve match.
Oh yeah, like the Swerve one, I just think it was executed so poorly. Like I feel like there was just like there was something off with just the layout of the match and how Ospreay conveyed it, where it was like he didn't show any reluctance, whereas this one you did do the reluctance and it ended up costing him at the end.
Yeah. And so at this point you get the title switch and now you set the stage for Wembley with Ospreay chasing Max. Like at the end of, when they announced this particular bout for TV, I was fully confident that I think we'd result in something that would have helped the Wembley show, because I think we've seen the way Tony books, like this isn't just hot shotting. It's okay, it is hot shotting for a good rating for sure, but it's also done with the intended effect of making you more excited for the Wembley match, which, man, after 60 minutes of wrestling, you figured you'd be kind of exhausted by this. But no, the answer is no. Like, I'm more excited for the Wembley match after something like this. And now you have a storyline reason to want to see Ospreay beat MJF as well.
I just thought that like, these two, it was just so evident at the beginning, like the chemistry that they had from go, and I don't think anyone was too stunned by that, but I was just I love this match. I thought it was outstanding. I think this will easily be in the conversation at the end of the year. It was that strong. And when it comes to matches on Dynamite specific, while people are looking at the 250 episodes, you could certainly make the claim the best match in Dynamite history.
So Wembley has to top this, and I don't think they're going to get 1 hour at Wembley, so they're going to have to top it, I guess, in other ways. Yeah, it'll be really
10-minute time limit is how MJF, he will only defend the title if it's a 10-minute time limit.
I think we also have to give it up to Little Rock, Arkansas. Okay,
dude, this crowd was great. This crowd was great, and I thought they were going to have such a come down after this, and that was not the case. Like, they were very heated for that Mercedes Nyla Rose match.
Yes, and one for the main event as well.
Yeah, like it was a great crowd, and listen, that would be my thinking, is that if I like no one's doing cartwheels over 3,000 people for a show, but I am going to put on a show, and granted, you can't do this every week, but to go out there, I would want to make those that were on the fence and didn't come, that you missed something incredible, and you go out there and you give those 3,000 people something that they will remember forever, like to be in, to witness this match live. You hopefully have like cemented something for AEW in this market that they have not run before.
So maybe shifting this to the topic of ratings. What do you think the quarter-hour chart will look like for a match like this? And is there a number in your mind that you think you should expect when you're giving a match like this on television?
Well, I think you couldn't start with like your lead-in that should hopefully, like you're starting with your two biggest stars. And I think anyone that was tuning in, even with that, like that WWE mind of, okay, they can't possibly be giving us a match. Like you knew pretty early on, they're giving you a real match and then some.
AEW has established that.
And the hope would be that like this, like typically, this isn't, a pattern every single time, but typically, a match like this, it's going to grow your audience. It's one of the reasons, like I never liked the idea of the Iron Man matches, because we saw what would happen on TV, where you're telling people when to tune in and when to tune out and come back for the final minutes when it'll matter. I think if you're going to do a 60-minute match, you do it like this, where it's growing and growing. I mean, tonight there's factors. There is several things going on tonight, but I think hopefully this is one where they get a healthy lead in, and that it was like you had the star power, you had the match quality, and hopefully that hooked enough people. This is certainly going to be, it was a big test to do the whole first hour of this and hopefully keep people attracted, and you would want to see like positive growth throughout the hour. We will see. Like typically it's that big start and then it levels off throughout the rest of the show. Your hope would be maybe to kind of buck that trend and hold on to more of that first quarter audience, and you had as compelling a match as you could put on paper and deliver to people. To like, if you're tuning it out after 15 minutes, I'd argue like there probably isn't a match that's going to keep that person if they're getting this and not interested.
Regardless, I still think it was worth doing, because the end result of this is that I'm more excited for the Wembley match than I was going into it. So I don't think they lost anything by overexposure. And
well, that's the bigger question, is more so than just focusing on this rating. It's the Wembley number. Like, they have been stuck at 40,000, and I think while not announced, everyone I think believes you're getting this match at Wembley. Are we going to see like ticket movement for the rematch and Will going for his title in 5 weeks' time?
Well, they have 5 weeks to make this feud that much more personal. They already have it a pretty good start here. Now they've added the fact that it's Ospreay chasing MJF for a championship, and I'm sure the promos are going to be coming in. They're going to be digging a bit deeper in the weeks to come.
Is there any way you see Will going for this title having a chance to go on last over Danielson going for the AEW title, or is the Danielson going for the title still the top story?
I could see this closing the show the same way Brett versus... Well, actually, did Brett Davey close the show?
Yes.
They did, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, in that same vein, I could see it. I mean, at this point, you have to argue what is the bigger match for the live crowd, and as big of a deal as Danielson going for the championship might be, I have a feeling this one might be the more anticipated match.
Does Will come out with Lennox Lewis?
I don't know. Okay. It would be an ambush.
So following that, we go to Arcady Aura in the back with Mark Briscoe and the Acclaimed are making their case. They beat the Young Bucks. It's a no-brainer. They want to be on Team AEW, but Briscoe has to check with Swerve, who enters with Prince Nana. And, of course, we have the history with Swerve and Keith Lee with the Acclaimed, and state that there's no better people to go to war with than ones you've done battle with, and they allow the Acclaimed to join the team, and that brings the team up to 4, and we would find out the 5th before the end of the night. Big Bill introduces Chris Jericho, who comes out for the Learning Tree segment and notes the crime rate in the city, and that he was on the very first Dynamite, and he's never going to miss another episode of Dynamite. He'll be on every one through episode number 500.
Do you think Jericho will be here for episode 500? Do you have a prediction?
That's in 5 years. So
yeah, twice the amount of time that we've gone through.
I mean, he'll be around Minoru Suzuki's age. I'll go yes.
Like, the bigger question is, does he stay in AEW up until that point? And I feel like I would probably bet on yes as well myself.
I don't think he'll be wrestling routinely by 5 years from now.
Jericho's like, he's going at a really good pace, doesn't really get injured at all.
That is one thing he has had going for him his entire career. This guy, like, outside of... he when he broke his arm in Smoky Mountain Wrestling, like this guy has had remarkable luck when it comes to avoiding. Like, he has not had.
Yeah.
Am I missing any major injury that he's had?
I don't think so. I think that's always been
all his
sort
sabbaticals
of
have been self-imposed. Like, he's taken breaks on his own, but not due to, like, obviously, wear and tear injuries. He's been injured, but nothing. I can't think of a torn ACL or anything that he's been through. So, I mean, maybe it's possible. They go through all the attacks on Shibata, Hook, and Joe, and that's what happens when people don't listen to the Learning Tree, and then we hit what should be the official anthem in North Little Rock, Kaza ni Nare, as Minoru Suzuki comes out, and he's got a contract and presents it as Brian Keith reads the contract where Suzuki challenges him for next week at Blood and Guts, with Keith and Big Bill banned from ringside. Now, who made this? Who signed this contract? Who has ordered that Brian Keith and Big Bill be banned from ringside?
I'm assuming it was not the Elite.
No.
Yeah.
This is my biggest issue with this storyline, is that is Tony Khan, does he have the all-encompassing power that overrides everybody, or does he not?
I think it depends who gets to it first, okay? Yeah, whoever's puts their signature on it first gets the say. That's why sometimes it's Chris Daniels in charge, sometimes it's the Elite in charge.
Like, realistically, should Tony Khan have been brought back in storyline after the attack?
No. Should the storyline have taken place at all? Maybe it might be a question.
To attack Tony Khan, it makes all the sense in the world to get rid of him.
If you don't have a good payoff, and if you can't do it within the bounds of, I think, accepted reality in this world, then I don't know if you should have done it at all. Well,
that's going to happen next week, and then Suzuki headbutts Jericho, and then he does the high guys wave to everyone on his way out. So there we will get Minoru Suzuki and Chris Jericho.
Yeah, we already knew this match was coming, of course, and I still question the rollout of this match. Like, why did they do the Suzuki tease in the lead up to Forbidden Door, which just ended up confusing everybody? And because we already knew the match was occurring, having it announced now, like, it doesn't feel sort of that special. I have to say, at this point, like, I think the Suzuki sort of like special attraction luster has kind of worn a bit more thin for me. I still think it's cool to hear Kazani Nare, but it doesn't feel like, I think, the type of dream match scenario that, like, I felt they were going for in a segment like this. Like, it just kind of feels like a bit of a typical match, coming up next week, Jericho versus Suzuki.
I guess it will also be interesting to see how Tomohiro Ishii is integrated now that we know that he's going to be doing AEW all summer. He's not going to be on the undercards in G1. It's going to be, he will have a extended run here in AEW.
Well, like, you would assume he'd be paired with Cassidy, right, as one of his good friends, best friends.
Maybe he's adopted by the Acclaimed.
Yes, why not? He could be the new. Can you imagine Tomohiro Ishii scissoring?
Yes,
I can too. Yeah.
Then we have the Bucks and Okada reacting to the Acclaim being added to the team, and says that Swerve's title may have to be vacated after next week's violent blood and guts match. And then Mercedes Moné walks in and thanks them for banning Britt Baker from ringside tonight. So while they were banning Britt Baker, Tony Khan was able to sneak in a contract for Minoru Suzuki. Is that what happened?
Sure, yes.
They took their eye off the ball.
Let's just assume that, yeah.
So this is, not only is she banned from ringside, but that means Britt Baker won't be able to appear on episode 250. And at the end, Okada wants to see the CEO dance. So Mercedes does it, and Okada is flustered and has a crush on Mercedes.
As usual, Okada is the scene stealer in all of this.
We all this time we thought he was like partial to Ferraris, but it turns out there's another model he's been eyeing.
He might like all sorts of luxury vehicles, yeah. If this is the tease of an Okada Moné romance, I'm there for it. Okay, they have acknowledged that Okada is married to a very famous person in Japan, but come on, let's not
for 2 hours a week on Wednesdays.
Exactly. Let's not let that get in the way of a potentially great story. Look at this power couple right here. Okay,
the Moné couple. Yeah,
love it.
Right. Mercedes and Nyla Rose for the TBS Championship. Early on, there's a tilt-a-whirl into a DDT, but Nyla blocks it and yells, "Have you lost your mind?" And Moné gets draped on the top rope, hit with the flying knee, and then placed into a torture rack. Moné then takes over after Rose's shoulders run into the corner post. She is suplexed off the back of Rose, and then Rose hits a cannonball. Moné takes out the leg, hits her Vader bomb, and then a Meteora. Crowd is chanting loudly and going back and forth. There were Mercedes chants, there were "Let's go Rose," and then Moné counters on top into a bulldog, pulls out a glove that says CEO on it, and goes to apply the lockjaw, but she is not a trained dentist, so she does not know the pressure spot, and therefore Nyla starts biting her hand, and Mercedes has to go to plan B, ramming Nyla's head into the mat, and applies the statement maker for the submission win at 9 minutes and 21 seconds. So you can take that name to the bank.
Yeah, yes, you can. Statement maker. At least there's a name for it. Is about as much as I could say, about that one. They've had months now to come up with a replacement name for bank statement and statement. Sure, why not?
This sounds like she was in the gorilla position. Said, "Hey, did anyone come up with a name?" Statement maker. Okay.
Yeah,
We're gonna workshop this. No, let's just go with it. So there you go. We finally got our name.
I do like the detail of Moné not knowing how to do the hold because she's not a dentist.
It was a nice touch.
Yeah, I liked it. I thought Nyla also showed really great charisma here. She's been playing babyface, I want to say, maybe for a bit now, especially I think taking a lot of elements of her real life personality and Twitter persona certainly into this current incarnation, and I think it's wonderful. I'd love to see her a lot more on screen as a character doing character stuff. In the match, I did find it a little bit difficult to buy her not being a monster and selling and coming up fighting from underneath against Mercedes Moné at times. So I mean I don't know if that's a bother for anybody else, but I'm at the very least happy to see her at least get on TV and showcase her personality a little bit more.
Yeah, I think she's very good talent in this role that I think people can at least you have a former champion here. I mean, this was largely just it.
That's kind of in her role for I don't know, years now. It's just kind of putting over the next.
Honestly, I just believe I thought that crowd was going to be so exhausted from that 60-minute match, but I thought the crowd added a lot to this by being into both women.
Well, Moné's a big star, and I think that's the effect that you get with her. She comes out and she's somebody that you actually do pay attention to just because of her star power, I think.
After the match, there's a fan with a Sting mask holding up a DMD is greater than Moné sign, and Mercedes tears up the sign, and they take off the mask. It was not Steve Borden. It was Dr. Britt Baker, and she chases Mercedes. Security separates the two, and Mercedes was just going overboard here with selling the fear of Britt Baker.
Yeah. Britt Baker taking off the Sting mask to reveal Britt Baker, I think will probably be used in some sort of GIF highlight reel of Sting taking his mask off at some point. It was kind of funny, I'm guessing anybody who does this spot from this point forward will be in a Sting mask. It was fine build. I really like the promo exchange these two had. In the 2 weeks since, there's really been nothing that I think spectacular to me. So hopefully we get some more promos in the 5 weeks to go.
Did you see any of her interviews she did with Renee Paquette?
No, I haven't. How was it?
She talked a little bit about the mini stroke she had. I mean, she didn't go into too many details about it, but she was getting her hair done when the episode happened, and she was getting just all nauseous and hot. So the hairdresser went to get her a bottle of water, and she told this part in the promo as well. She went to open the bottle of water and couldn't open it, and so the hairdresser opens the bottle for her. She has the water, and she knows it's a problem, and it's enough that the person there is you need to get to the hospital, and she's okay, I'll go, but let's do my hair first. So she got her hair done, and then again with half her body is paralyzed, she drives to the hospital, which she did note I would not suggest people do that. That was probably not a good decision, but it was 2 blocks away, and she drove after this thing. So I mean, that was a little this just sounded like such a scary ordeal that I she just naturally assumed this must be something to do with my neck, and of course I don't think you'd be thinking stroke would be a potential thing that you're going through here. I mean, it just sounded frightening. It's amazing that she has made this she's 100% cleared and she is coming back from this, but yeah, it's just quite the story. Then we had Mariah May, the recap of last week's attack and going through the history between them. And this video package ended with a close-up shot of the bloodied Toni Storm. I mean, just an incredible visual. Jack Perry addresses Darby Allin. He's got his attention after he attacked Brandon Cutler, but says, do you think I give a shit about Brandon Cutler? And it turns out he's destroying Brandon Cutler, and Perry just leaves him for dead in the back and tells Darby to come find him tonight. He'll show him what a real sacrifice looks like. Then we hear timeless Toni Storm's theme music, and out comes someone dressed as Toni Storm. And when she first came out, I mean, she looked like a dead ringer for Toni Storm, to the point that like the crowd almost didn't know how to react. I don't think if they quite understood at the beginning that it was Mariah May.
Dude, I didn't quite understand from the moment I saw her on screen. And I have the benefit of seeing this up on close up. I can only imagine like seeing it from a distance how much you would have thought this was Toni Storm. She looks just like her. I mean, we thought she looked like her a whole lot, you know, doing sort of the old gimmick, but like in this timeless hairstyle and the makeup and like the clothes, like she looks exactly like her. It was scary and definitely took this crowd quite a while to realize themselves.
Lorne Michaels has this rule on Saturday Night Live where if they make somebody up to be playing a celebrity or someone, there was one, I can't remember what the example was, but the way they did the makeup and the did up their face and everything, they looked too much like the person that you couldn't tell who the actor or who the comedian was that was playing it. And he never wanted the audience to not know instantly who was playing, that this person is playing the role. And that was kind of the case here because they did her up tremendously well.
They did a great job. Yeah.
So she comes out and she's taking her time with the microphone. And all of a sudden you just hear, "Speak, bitch, come on." And it's Tony Schiavone.
What?
Did you hear this?
I did not catch that particular line. Wow.
He just comes out of nowhere and the announcers are caught off guard. "Speak, bitch, come on." Like, holy Christ.
Wow, really?
I could not believe this. And he apologizes. He's like, "I'm sorry. I just So Mariah May says that they all saw it coming except for Toni Storm. The question shouldn't be why, but Mariah, what took you so long? Now, I give her a lot of credit. Like this is where this crowd, this was a difficult crowd to cut this promo for. And when she introduced the question, this just opened up the what chance. And Mariah May powered through this thing. She had a very good promo to deliver, but this was what I just feel the crowd was thrown off from the beginning here. And then it was a long talking segment, which was almost like this audience like came down here because she had to really fight through this, I thought.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I necessarily look at the what chant as like a sign that a promo segment didn't work. I think to most audiences,
it's just an obstacle the performer has to, like, I think it's just ingrained in audiences now. Like, it's part of the show. It's what
you chant at a heel to try to throw them off because you don't like the person. So I wouldn't necessarily look at it as a failing, but it is a test for, you know, whether or not a talent has a comeback for it or if they can just kind of power through. And at this point, I think most are just instructed to just proceed as usual. And she did. She was debuting a new promo style here as this new sort of more sinister and more sort of like demented and more serious and more top billing character. And I thought she did a great job of giving us a visual transformation, but also a promo style transformation as well.
She herself didn't think it would last this long between them, but it was just so easy and so fun to string her along. And then she saw Wembley and thought, why take the old horse out back when she can kill it in front of as many people as possible? A great line. And says, "I've been Toni Storm. Now I can be so much more. I love you, Toni, but I never loved you more than when you were on your knees, bleeding, crying, and screaming my name." And her greatest performance will be at All In. And All Elite Wrestling is all about Mariah. I thought she did great here. I thought she really set this up well. This was a great follow-up, and I think they should really hold off on Toni Storm coming back for at least a few weeks, and it'll be a big reaction when she comes back. I think they've done a great job with this. That angle was tremendous, and this was a good follow-up. And I thought Mariah May, like, she had to kind of battle through here in this segment, but she didn't get thrown off, and it turned into a very good promo.
she was focused, and I think this person is way more talented than I think we've had any idea about. Like I think we all really enjoyed the role she had as the sort of almost comedic sidekick to Toni Storm. But she's got a different level, a higher level of serious villain in her that you could tell from a promo like this that is going to be money, is going to be like I'm assuming she's going to win the championship at Wembley from Toni Storm. That's certainly the move I would make to just kind of push her over the top as that next level. Her line, AEW is now All About Mariah, is of course a reference to All About Eve, a movie that a lot of people have speculated is the basis for this entire storyline. Seemingly some confirmation of that, if it wasn't obvious enough already. But they've put so much great creativity and great creative thought into this entire storyline, and it is progressing, I think, way better than any of us would have even expected. So credit to Toni Storm, credit to Mariah May, Tony Khan, of course, and whoever is helping, and credit to RJ City, who apparently has a lot to do with the creation behind all of this as well.
From the moment this character was introduced, I never even had to ask and knew 100% that RJ City had his fingerprints on this. Like, there was no doubt in my mind when this came out, because I just assumed it as fact from the second I saw this timeless Toni Storm character.
Completely. Absolutely.
Maybe we'll have to do a double shot before Wembley on All About Eve.
I would be somewhat curious, yeah.
It is available online. I have actually sought it out. Watched Deadpool last night.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Yeah, I'm on top of things.
And?
I have seen Deadpool before. People have to pay to hear my thoughts on MCU later. I'm not divulging anymore. It's all about Pollock. Then we go to the Bang Bang Gang. This was from Collision, where Alicia Toot is speaking with them. They're stripped of the Trios tag titles, and Christopher Daniels explains he isn't happy either about having to strip them of the titles, but the alternative was suspending them, and then they can't go after the Trios tag titles. I think this is the most convoluted story. I have no idea what this is. It's not even presented like Daniels is being forced to do this. It's like he's making this decision.
No,
are we to believe that
he didn't want to, but he has to execute this order. Now we're completely ignoring the fact that everybody's bringing up, what is it, Joe stepping in for Adam Cole as a substitute, when they have to defend the tag team championships, of course. So it's not consistent at all. I don't like it either.
So Tony Khan can't overrule this. This is what we've learned, right?
Or he's chosen not to, I suppose. I'm still not really a big fan of Daniels in the authority position. I think he's a little bit too over the top and a little too much of a pro wrestler, for a role like that. I also think aren't the Bang Bang Gang heels still?
Not in this story. I mean, in this one, it's you were almost teasing like the patriarchy. We're going to end up as.
The patriarchy are definitely heels, but I also feel like the Bang Bang Gang are too, and I don't necessarily think they're like the tweener type of heels either. But anyway, yeah, I'm not so into this.
Yeah, I'm not into it in the least. Swerve, Strickland, and Kazuchika Okada is the final match. Very fast pace out of the gate. This is where they do mention Willow winning the CMLL women's title at Fantastica Mania last weekend. Okada is playing around with Swerve. He goes to do the Rainmaker pose, but instead it's just the middle fingers like prior. Swerve catches him with a power slam, and then Okada avoids the Swerve stomp, lands a tombstone, and the Rainmaker gets countered in midair with a Swerve stomp when the Young Bucks run in, and we get a DQ finish to end things with a lot of heat and also a lot of boos. They have definitely crossed the Rubicon in AEW when it comes to their ability to do DQs, and that's how they got out of this one. But then the Acclaimed run out, followed by Jack Perry, Mark Briscoe. He lands a dive on the Bucks, and then a DDT is executed by Perry onto Briscoe, house call onto Perry, and then Swerve is standing in the ring when Hangman walks out, and they're looking across the ring at each other when Okada takes Swerve away so they never get their hands on each other. The brawl continues, and Darby's music plays, and the place goes wild, and everyone's asking, where's Darby? And Darby rappels from the rafters, coming down, and he goes after Jack Perry Perry, and it goes for Jack Perry's eye as the show goes off the air with the graphic confirming that Darby Allin is the 5th and final member of Team AEW going into Blood and Guts.
Yeah. I thought the match was promising. Was getting to a point that I think it was going to be certainly living up to expectations. I thought Swerve looked really good. Like it's really interesting to see his style mixed with Okada's, because I think Swerve's is so unique, and Okada is like, I don't necessarily want to say straightforward, because like he's spectacular, but it's not the same type of like spectacular that you get just maybe in the same in the way that Swerve is able to move. So for me, it was cool to see that. I thought Swerve definitely stood out. He definitely looked like pretty incredible in the match. So maybe eventually at some point we get an actual conclusion and something a bit more substantial from those two, because I think it would be great. But I didn't mind the DQ finish for this, because I think they gave you a very satisfying and big feeling brawl at the end. And getting it's like the flamethrower deal, dude, with Darby Allin. Like Darby Allin comes out with the flamethrower, you don't even think about what the finish to the match was. You're just kind of satisfied by this like crazy looking ending, and they achieved something similar here, I thought, with him repelling, doing the Sting entrance into the arena.
Yeah, this was more the match of, give people enough, but it's like we're not giving you the match of Swerve and Okada. And quite frankly, I think you needed to use these final minutes to really push Blood and Guts for next week. Can't really tell you what they're necessarily fighting for. They're all at odds with one another.
Well, they hate the Elite. They all hate the Elite for some reason. We know Swerve, of course, does not like the Elite. Darby Allin has more than enough justification to hate the Elite after Stadium Stampede. The Acclaimed have been feuding with the Bucks. Mark Briscoe, I guess, just like, he's just an exciting, charismatic.
We're going to get a great promo from Mark Briscoe sometime over this next week going into Blood and Guts.
He does definitely feel a little bit odd, because I don't think he's got much to do with like any of the storylines, but like it tells me that they are really serious about pushing Mark Briscoe by giving him a prominent role like this.
This is also 2 days before the ROH pay-per-view that he's headlining.
Okay. Yeah. Interesting. And then
I think this should be great. It's just I really do feel like that this Elite running the show angle has kind of, I don't know like how much legs this thing has, much beyond this of them still having control of the show. I don't think it has been over, like the character stuff to me has been fine, but the running the show gimmick has, I don't know, it's run its course for me, that I feel like a match like this could have been designed to kind of be like the wrap up to at least that aspect of things, or at least sort things out where you can explain this hierarchy where Tony Khan is making rulings and the Elite are making rulings, and all of these things exist independent of one another.
I don't necessarily see those sort of stakes like in the few weeks before Wembley. I could see it for Wembley, because I think they're just going to use these characters to push whatever match, we might get a more clear direction coming out of Blood and Guts for like the, what matches the rest of these few are going to have for Wembley Stadium, of course, as well. So yeah, it's probably going to be a very violent match. A lot of blood. Darby Allin's going to do something really
and another
crazy.
Really long match. Like these Blood and Guts matches are like 45, 50 minutes. So we're probably going to get another very, very lengthy match in Nashville.
If you're talking about the quality of a Dynamite like this one, sign me up, okay? Give me one really strong hour-long match and I don't know, like 2 to 3 other matches that are also very like anticipated and good quality. I can't get mad at that.
Like this run of Dynamites, like it's again like the quality is very, very strong. It's like that to me has not been the question. It's encouraging, or at least the attempt should be that hopefully you see like this effect of these. You put together these great shows and you start to see, you're selling more tickets and you're pushing things in that direction. But this was a spectacular television show, including like one of the better TV matches you're going to see, period. Which was the first half of the show. Like, I don't know how anyone could complain on a show that featured that for 60 minutes.
They gave you something incredibly special on this show. And I do think like rather than just even talk about what was on the show, we have to talk about what the feeling is for a viewer or an AEW fan coming out of a show and leading into a show? How anticipated were people for MJF versus Ospreay? And how much do people who didn't watch it live regret that they didn't watch it live? How many people will be seeking it on their PVR? You know, are they creating the feeling of like FOMO for people who had the option to go to the show in Little Rock and didn't? These are the things we can assess at this point after the show.
Yeah, and what is to the larger audience out there? What does, like, I can only imagine that even like 3 years ago, what a match like that and the ripple effect you're going to have and the amount, like, is there enough of an audience out there that, you know, a spectacular match, does it still have that level of impact? Will this still be a match that people are buzzing about by Sunday, for instance?
I think that's a very good question. Yeah, like there was, like, I knew what I was watching was special, but I also recognize that I've seen several of these already, just even on AEW television. You know, these sort of like amazing 60-minute draw types of matches. So it just kind of, it's inevitable, isn't it? You know, the bar keeps getting set higher and they have to continue to find ways to top themselves. But I will say, like, they are creating great hooks for every single week that we're, you know, in this string of Dynamites, whether it be, and they're giving you great angles usually to get off of the show too. Like last week with the Mariah May turn, of course. Every show from the past several weeks, we can identify with like some significant event. And I think that's a really good sign, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's like it feels like a cop-out answer, but when we talk about like so much about wrestling, it's perception, and that's what creates momentum. And sometimes it's really hard to kind of harness like what that is. But if we're looking at, like, you, with all due respect, like, you are never getting a match on a Raw or a SmackDown like we got tonight. Like, there's just no way you're seeing that. But it comes to like where your audience is viewing like the big stars, what is the hot show, and that's something like undeniably WWE has at the moment. And the hope would be that AEW, you put these shows together and hopefully in time, like, they are able to get that snowball rolling, and you build up that same kind of buzz, momentum, and sometimes it goes above just putting together these incredible, like the Blood and Guts match. That's going to be an incredible match. No one is guessing when they're tuning in that they're going to get an unbelievable 45 minutes. But you're right, Way. Are people leaving and they're buzzing about this Blood and Guts match for next week, and people that missed out are kicking themselves for missing that. These are all the things that they're battling at the moment, when you've got like WWE on an incredible roll and you're trying to carve out a healthy portion of those wrestling fans to come for more product each week.
I do think, like, you know, like having something like a Bloodline, you know, be this incredible threat that you can kind of base so many different storylines around. I think was like, or I guess right now maybe you look to the Judgment Day or something. I feel like that's what the Elite angle was trying to do, was trying to achieve, like this like, you know, incredible threat to the entire company that needs to be vanquished. It's not gotten to that level at all. I don't think they're that serious of a threat. So maybe this product needs something big like that, but I think they're trying to get there with like an MJF versus, you know, Ospreay. I think they can make a bigger deal out of like Danielson, you know, having this big retirement thing, and they still have 5 weeks to do that. So we'll see what they do.
And I think honestly, it's been a polarizing character for some with the timeless Toni Storm character, but they have something very unique with that storyline that's not being done elsewhere, and that has built up. And this is going to be a real interesting build to All In to see like how they maximize the peak for this story, because that is a like really, really solid women's program that like AEW has not had a program like in its time, where it's been this long built story. That, I mean, last week, like, we had people throwing out the notion, like, could this go on last at All In? I don't think it will, but the fact that you have people even thinking that is a credit to what this angle has done and the characters has brought out. And again, it's for some, it's like they they don't like this timeless Toni Storm character, but overall, like it's become a very big part of the AEW presentation, and it's
no matter how you might feel about the character week to week. I think even like the most traditional like purist wrestling fan could appreciate the turn last week and how good and how serious that ended up, and how money making, a segment that was. Yeah, it's pretty special what they've been able to accomplish with Mariah May and Toni Storm. When you look at that and you look at something like Britt Baker versus Moné, which is also a very anticipated match for the show, having a newcomer like Mariah May be able to somehow rival like the established star power of a Sasha Banks and Britt Baker, I think is incredibly impressive. But both of those matches I think are anticipated heading to Wembley.
All right. We want to hear what you had to say about tonight's edition of Dynamite, so we're going to be heading to the forum, and you can also submit your super chats if you have any for us.
We got a super chat here from Daniel Morris, who sent 78 Hong Kong dollars. Thank you very much, Daniel, for that. Got my Wrestle Kingdom and Wrestle Dynasty pre-sale tickets today. Does Post expect to have a presence in Tokyo that weekend?
I don't know.
I wish.
Yeah. We have not had that discussion. I would say probably not, but I will say, like, obviously Bushi Road, and I think all of the companies, like, they are gearing up, and I think you're going to see a really hard push to get tourists, wrestling fans for that week between, just from Stardom and New Japan. But when you throw, like, Noah has their annual show to start off the new year. Stardom has the Dream Queendom show at the end of December. Like, that week is going to be stacked with big shows, and obviously the big draw for people to travel there is going to be the back-to-back nights at Tokyo Dome and then Dash at the end of it all. I'm
curious to see how much AEW promotes Wrestle Dynasty. Do they promote it as hard as a Forbidden Door? Is it a New Japan World special event, or is it an actual pay-per-view that like you have to pay for the way that you pay for other AEW shows? Or are they going to promote it as much as they promote other New Japan events, which is basically nothing?
Yeah, and I think and that's going to have a big impact on international interest in this show, is if you get like the buy-in from AEW to like really promote on television. And I think that's for all of these Japanese companies, is like the level of promotion you get. Like granted they could do something on Collision, but like there was nothing set up of like where Takeshita is going for the next month, but
they have not as much incentive, John. I'm not going to say no incentive, but not as much incentive, especially when they have already so much of their own programming that they need to push.
Yeah, and I get that too. I get that too. It's you're just looking though for like the Japanese side of like, it's great that we get some of these performers coming over, but you can also weave it into certain stories as well. But it is a very valid point that AEW has more than enough of its own that it's pushing, that sending people to consume more is a little daunting for some.
Have a great time, Daniel. Those both, I'm sure for Wrestle Kingdom, Wrestle Dynasty especially, I'm very curious about.
Let's go to Muggin on the forum. The Milestone episode was a one-match show. Ospreay and MJF almost went Broadway. The first ad break didn't happen until the second picture-in-picture alert, and it had plenty of their signature spots. Everything else paled in comparison. Blood and Guts took a backseat. Mariah's promo was strong. A rematch in Wembley is a must.
Yeah, I would say most things would pale in comparison to a 60-minute match.
Like, that was an all-time great television match that I think it was, yeah.
But I don't think the other stuff was bad in any way, like I guess Mercedes versus Nyla wasn't necessarily a match that you needed to see. Even the angle with Britt afterwards wasn't something you needed to see. The rest was, and then the main event was more of a setup for just next week. All right, let's go to South from California. I've only had time to watch Ospreay versus MJF, but it was one of my favorite Dynamite matches of all time. My question for you guys, what's your favorite hour-long AEW match? Hangman versus Bryan, FTR versus Bullet Club Gold, MJF versus Bryan in the Iron Man match, or tonight's match?
Of all of them, this one, tonight's ranks pretty high. I think you need some distance from when a match happens to contextualize it. You're talking about like some of the best matches in AEW history. That Iron Man match was incredible. That was on the pay-per-view.
Yeah. I don't have enough brain power in me to like remember the specifics of everyone to be able to definitively say I prefer this one over that one. I've watched so much wrestling that it's hard for me to compare these hour-long matches. They're good. They're all pretty good.
Way's going to rewatch all of these and get back to you next week. Okay, that's his answer. Okay, now we go to Cody from Maine. Another week, another stellar Dynamite. While the open and close of the show will get the spotlight, I enjoyed what was sandwiched between. Despite the what chance, I thought Mariah delivered in her first big heel promo. It's a shame because I thought the crowd was really good aside from that. And shout out to Mercedes and Nyla, who had a really fun TV match. They absolutely got me with the opener, as after the first 30 minutes, I was certain we were heading to a draw, but the action was more than enough to keep me around, and the surprise finish was a nice reward. While the main event's ending did end up going down the predictable path, I thought they heated up Blood and Guts next week well. Darby's descent from the rafters was an awesome sight and done incredibly safely, while the tease of Swerve and Hangman was, as they say, cinema. What an excellent tease leading into next week.
When do you think they do Hangman versus Swerve?
I look at All Out as a very likely spot for that. Like I think you set it up next week in some form or fashion. I don't think you have to go as far as Hangman pins Swerve, but you could go that far if you wanted to next week.
Totally. Yeah.
And you need minimal build to come back 2 weeks after All In with that match. So that would be my target, would be Chicago. But for all I know, it could be on Dynamite in a few weeks when they're at the Bon Secours Wellness Center.
Well, at this point, you have to argue, like, is it what's more important, to get a really nice pay-per-view number, or to
at the moment it's
rating?
Not. It's TV. TV is like they are in the thick of their negotiations at the moment, and I mean, I don't know if just putting some big matches is going to sway things, but TV is absolutely the most important. Like, that deal is everything. It is the focus of everything.
I don't know if necessarily putting on big matches will make a huge difference either, but I think they've set an expectation at this point that every single Dynamite is one that you have to watch for some reason, for some hook, and they have to live up to that standard, beyond Blood and Guts. So we'll see what they do. I wouldn't be that surprised if they gave us Swerve versus Hangman on TV. All right, let's go to Brian from New Jersey, who says, outstanding near Broadway tonight. Incredible match. I figured a title change would happen to facilitate a rematch in Wembley, but a 1 hour draw would have gotten them there too. Yet they still pulled off the title change and positioned the camera to show the all-in graphic on the entrance behind the exhausted wrestlers after the finish. AEW has been doing these lengthy TV matches really well. I expected Swerve versus Okada to end like it did after Jack Perry dared Darby Allin to meet him later, and there was only so much time left. Traditional build that the crowd seemed hot for, including Darby descending like Sting. Speaking of Sting, I like that his mask is still being used for sneak attacks. More Nyla Rose on TV, please. Mariah's more deliberate promo delivery didn't entirely work for me, but I'm all in for the remaining build.
All right, we go to one more, and that comes from Michael, who writes, what a fun night of wrestling. Great opener, surpassing all expectations. I thought they were both going to be carted off at the end. Oh, my goodness. How will they top that at Wembley? I have every bit of confidence that they will. Mercedes and Nyla Rose was really entertaining, and they had good chemistry. It's good to see Mercedes implemented more character throughout the match, and Rose was dominant for a good chunk. Mariah May delivered an excellent presentation and promo tonight. She's a great heel. I can't wait to see her descend further into madness. Give RJ City his all-elite graphic already. Good main event. Okada and Swerve's styles mesh. Great facials by Okada. Great in-ring transitions by Swerve. It kept me watching step by step. Great brawl at the end with Darby adopting the Sting run-in, coming down from the rafters. Well done. Very good job keeping Hangman and Swerve apart. Good stuff. A satisfied viewer in Michael.
Thank you very much for some of those responses, and you can leave your feedback if you're a Post Wrestling Cafe patron, which also, of course, gives you access to all of our bonus shows in every G1 bonus coverage podcast beginning this weekend.
That's right, everyone. 12 G1 podcasts over the next month with the team here at Post Wrestling, not just myself and Wai Ting, but Bruce Lord, Karen Peterson, Kate from Montreal, Eric Marcotte, and of course, W.H. Park.
Yeah, sandwich ratings are back. The Bruce's whiskey ratings are back. Our coffee ratings are back. Who else? What's Kate gonna debut? I'm very curious.
Oh, I don't know. It's Kate is our Oleg Boltin this year. She is making her G1 Climax debut for Post Wrestling coverage, so we look forward to that. Eric Marcotte maybe will be I don't know, something Sonata related. I don't know, but we look forward to all the G1 coverage over the next month.
I think he did Star Wars, didn't he?
Yes, yeah, he did his cameos last year, so he's getting the full call up this year.
Yeah, that's right.
Also, on Thursday, new MCU Later will be dropping with JP Houlihan joining Rich and WH as the countdown to Deadpool and Wolverine continues. This week, they are watching Deadpool #1, starring Ryan Reynolds. And next week, it's Deadpool 2 with Wai Ting.
That's right, yeah. And this Friday, WWF Invasion, John Pollock and me will be reviewing that show, going all the way back to July of 2001. We're talking The Alliance. We're talking the old Stone Cold. We're talking Sarah Undertaker making appearances and Stalker DDP. It's going to be a good time.
Stalker DDT and his voyeur stuff.
Yeah.
All of that and more. And we're going to be doing some digging, and we will have some clips on this show. So look out for that on Friday.
Very quickly, one last super chat here. Jumanji Hunter got his $5 in at very last minute. He says, if Bryant doesn't win the title, Mariah should win in main event Wembley. Establish her as a top star, no matter gender. There's an argument to be made. I also think Ospreay is very likely to win the championship there at this point as well.
Yeah, I mean, you have set it up where, I mean, you could have those all three of those outcomes, and you go with, like, you're putting together the show that what is going to be the biggest climax to the show. In the build up to this, I would say, like, these three matches are all going to be promoted exceptionally hard. Like, they're all going to have, like,
Moné Baker as well, I think.
Moné Baker, I put a little below these other three, but you're right. Like, that would be on, like, close as well. But the point is, like, you're structuring this show, like, what is the biggest moment to end the show with? And that's what you're going with. I think you can make the argument for, like, if Bryan's winning the title, like, you could certainly make that, like, it would be hard to top that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. Thanks to everyone again for your super chats, for your feedback, and we are back later this week. Too many times to count, but we appreciate you all for tuning in, and we will chat with you later on this week.